What's going on, guys? In this video, I want to do a little bit of an educational training where we're going over the pre-trade thought process. Okay, so a lot of times as a trader, you need to make sure that you have things planned out, right? The whole name of this game is planning and then executing. That's it, right? If there's no planning going in pre-trade, the execution is going to be off. Okay, I don't really care what strategy you learned on YouTube. I don't care what strategy you use. I don't care if you're a trend trader or you're a scalper. It doesn't really matter. If the pre-trade thought process is off, the execution is going to be horrible. And let me give you an example. A lot of times you have an idea or you understand what the strategy or the setup is supposed to look like. It starts to happen in the real life markets. You enter into the trade, something doesn't go, the way you thought it was going to go. And then next thing you know, you're like a deer in the headlights, right? You blow up accounts, you lose a bunch of money that you shouldn't, and then it causes emotional tilt and it can really be destruction and a downfall of a trader. So pre-trade, you always need to kind of know a couple of things. What setup am I looking for, right? First off, what am I looking for? So, right, what am I looking for needs to be the first thing on everyone's mind. And what this means is what strategy, what setup, what chart pattern are you waiting for? A lot of times, I notice a lot of traders will get into the market, right? Pre-market, they're looking at the screens, the market opens, market shoots up, they're just clicking buy. Well, I'm playing momentum. I'm doing this, that, and the other with no other real thought process behind it. Then it comes back down and it stops them out, or maybe they make some cash and now they're going short. You're not really looking for anything. You're just kind of shooting by the edge of the seat, so to speak, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. So you need to understand what you're looking for in terms of strategy. What strategy are you looking for? What chart pattern are you looking for? That needs to be the first thought process, right? What am I waiting for? Because this whole business, this whole, day trading, even scalping thing, it doesn't really matter. You need to have a plan of waiting for something that is going to be highly successful if you operate it correctly. That gives you a little bit of an edge, right? So what that means is you need to make sure that everything is already pre-planned. So what are you looking for needs to be the first question. Now the second question needs to be, is this inside my trade window, right? And these bubbles are in no particular order of hierarchy. So it's just all thought process, right? Is this inside my trade window? And what that means is if you have a trade window of, let's say you want to trade between New York market open and lunchtime. Well, if you're asking yourself to take a trade and it's after lunch, are you really following your pre-trade thought process? Are you really following your plan? If, let's say, there's a setup in the morning pre-market, but it's not in your trade window, and you know that in the past when you've traded in the pre-market that you've taken some big losses, are you following your plans, right? Are you following your rules? So the first thing, the second thing, these are all thoughts that are going to happen in milliseconds, right? Like as you're watching the charts live. Is this trade inside of my trade window, right? Like, should I even be trading? Again, what am I looking for, right? Like, I don't come into the markets each and every single day and say, well, if the market pulls back today, I'm just going to buy the dip. Well, if the market goes higher today, I'm just going to go long, right? Like, no, I'm looking for something specific, and then I'm waiting for that specific thing to happen. The next thing is, am I trading in the right window, right? And I definitely recommend everyone to have a trade window, because if you don't have a trade window, you're kind of just looking for random things at random times. And if you're so random, you're going to have random results, right? The next thing that needs to be kind of taken into consideration is how much risk per trade am I willing to take? Okay. This needs to be a question that is answered before you even take the trade. Okay. So before you even take the trade. Again, If you have not answered that question before you're taking the trade, you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay. So let's use an example. Let's say you have a $50,000 evaluation account or a funded account with any one of the prop firms. How much are you willing to lose per trade? Okay. Everyone needs to have that number at the top of their heads. It needs to be embedded into your rules, into your playbook, into your system. How much are you willing to lose? I'll give you an example. For myself, I'm willing to lose between $300 and $400, $450 per trade. Okay. So automatically, that's going to ignore a lot of potential setups that, let's say, is going to require me to put on too much risk. So I'll give you an example. One of the setups that I like to trade is the 20 play pivot, right? Now, if that reason why candle, the candle that closes over the 20 SMA, is 75 points, and I know that in a worst case possible scenario, that if I get wicked into this trade, technically that trade is not broken until we take out the bottom of the reason why candle, which is 75 points worth of risk. Automatically, I know that I cannot trade a mini contract or two mini contracts because the risk, the potential loss is going to be far too greater than what I want to feel, right? Or what I want to experience. So in that type of situation, I have to ask myself the question, right? The next question that's going to be asked pre-trade is, do I really want to take the trade? Okay. So do you really want to take the trade? And the reason why this question needs to be asked is because if you have any type of hesitation at all in terms of risk of the candle, any type of doubt at all, do not take the trade. And the reason why is because if you take the trade when you had even an inkling worth of doubt, it's going to cause you to tilt if that trade does lose. It's going to cause you to get emotional if that trade puts you into some type of drawdown, because subconsciously you never really wanted to take that trade with that much risk, and you were hoping that it was just going to work in your favor. So the moment that it doesn't work in your favor, automatically you're going to feel some type of way. You're going to feel some type of emotion. You're going to feel some type of tilt. You're going to feel some type of anxiety. The palms are going to get sweaty. The heart's going to start to beat fast. Some type of stress is going to be released in your body because you were never really willing to lose that potential trade, right? So again, let's kind of go back now. Let's go back, right? Pre-trade thought process. Before you even take a trade, what are you looking for? Okay, very simple. Next thought. These are all thoughts, right? These are all thoughts. Is this inside my trade window? Okay, so am I even trading during the time that I set forth myself to even want to trade? Okay, or am I just trading random hours of the day because, hey, everyone else is making money? How much risk per trade am I willing to take? Okay, that number needs to be clear before you take any trade. Do I really want to take the trade? So now we're talking about pattern has set up, strategy has indicated you, potential setup is here. Now it's go time, right? Now it's time to start performing under the bright lights. Do I really want to take the trade? Needs to get asked. That question needs to be asked. Okay, so when you ask yourself that question, if you're okay with taking the trade, the next question is, how much size can I play, right? How much size can I play? That's what needs to be asked of you. How much size? Let me move this over. Make sure you guys can see that. How much size can I play, right? That's what needs to be asked of you. Okay. So when you ask yourself that question, from there, you need to do the math very quickly and ask yourself, how many contracts can I trade on this potential trade? The reason why candle is 75 points. I don't really like that it's 75 points, but I'm willing to take the trade. If you're confident in the setup, you're confident in the price action, you're confident in the momentum, even though you don't like the amount of risk that is attached to that trade, we can definitely still trade it, but we need to make sure we're playing the right size. So if it's a 75 point risk on that candle, maybe we play 1 micro. Most we're going to lose is $150. Now, again, there's different things that we can do inside of our setup, inside of our stop loss, inside of our managing of that trade, where we don't have to lose the full 75 points if something else happens. That's something that we go over in Evolution Traders. We have different areas of exits, right? We have different areas of, hey, we're going to throw in the towel early because something is off with the trade. I'm just talking about your maximum potential loss on each trade needs to be predefined before you even get into that trade, right? So if the reason why candle, I'm just using the worst possible scenario, reason why candle is 75 points of risk. Yes, I understand that that's a lot of risk, but we don't have to let it run 75 points. We can still engage in that trade, and we can use other indicators. We can use other areas of supply or demand to kind of help us mitigate that risk and tighten up that stop loss. I'm just speaking about maximum potential loss, 75 points. Okay, so you still want to be involved in the trade, right? It's off the open, everyone else is trading, you're very excited, you're you know, you just learned a new system, you learned a new strategy, you want to get involved in the trade. Great. How much size can we play? Second thing, you know, like how much size can we play? If it's 75 points worth of risk, I only want to risk, again, remember, we've already asked ourselves the question once, how much risk per trade am I willing to take? See that? We've already answered that question before we took the trade. Before the trade setup even presented itself. Remember the answer? It was $200, right? I mentioned it about just a couple minutes ago. $200 was the most we wanted to risk on any one potential trade. So how much size can I play? Now the setup is here. It's time to perform under the lights. If the most I want to risk on any one potential trade is $200, how much size can I play with the 75 point risk? I'm giving you guys the worst possible scenario, right? We want to try to look for trade setups that are going to risk 20, 30 points on the NASDAQ futures max, right? You know, 40 points is pushing it. I'm giving you the worst possible scenario because these scenarios happen and you always have to think about the worst possible scenario. Okay. So if I only want to risk $200 per trade, I know that I can only be involved on this trade for 1 micro contract, because 1 micro contract at $75 is going to be a $150 loss. That's about the most that I can do, right? I can squeeze that to 2 contracts, which would be essentially a $300 risk on that trade. But I can manage my stop loss in a way where if I'm down 30 points in the position, I exit the trade, right? Like that can be a rule that's built into your system. Like I can squeeze a little bit more size on this, but my stop loss is not going to be the full 75 points. I need to be okay with that. And I need to risk maybe 30 or 35 points, right? Once you've got that question answered, right? Once you've got that question all out of the way, you've got how much you're going to be willing to risk per trade. You know, you're going to ask yourself, do you really want to take the trade? If the answer is yes, you still want to be invited to eat dinner at the dinner table. The next question is, how much size can I play, right? How much size can I play? I know how much I want to risk on this one potential trade, but how much size can I trade? Okay. From there, the next question is, what's my out? Okay. What's my out? And in this particular situation, you've got a lot of things already taken care of pre-trade. Now the setup is here and we're going to get ready to execute the trade. Now we're into the trade. What's our out? These are all pre-trade thought processes. So meaning we're not thinking about this after we're in the trade, guys. Again, think about this. This whole thing is built around a pre-trade thought process. Okay, so this means before we enter a trade, before the setup even happens. Okay, what is my out? Right? Very simple, guys. Very simple. What is your out? Right? What is your out? Before the trade even happens, what am I looking for? Okay. Before the trade even presents itself, am I even trading inside my trade window? Before the trade even sets up, how much am I willing to risk on the setup whenever it does come, right? Now the setup is here. Now the candles are forming. Now the indicator is triggering. Do I really want to take this trade? It's a yes or no question, okay? Next, based on how much I'm willing to risk per trade, how much size can I take on this trade to fit my risk per trade, okay? Sometimes you're able to squeeze 5 micros. Sometimes you have, let's say, a 12-point candle. You're willing to play 2 or 3 minis on that 12-point candle, right? It's all going to be dependent based on how much you're willing to risk per trade is going to determine how much position size you can trade on that one particular setup. Now that the setup is here, now we're ready to execute. Now we're ready to fire into this trade. The last question before we even buy or sell is, what is my out? And what is your out doesn't just mean stop loss. What is your out in terms of take profit, right? Let's say, for example, in the same situation in the example that I've been using, it's a 75-point risk candle. We're going to trade 2 micros where the maximum potential risk is going to be 300. I don't want to risk 300, so automatically I'm going to cut my stop loss from 75 points to 30, 35 points max. That's going to keep me under a $200 maximum risk. What am I looking for in terms of take profit? If I'm risking 30 points, am I going to treat it as a scalp? How many points am I looking for? Is it 5 points? Is it 10 points? That question needs to be answered before you get into the trade. It's not, I'm going to get into the trade, and if I get 5 points, I'll take 5 points. If I get 50 points, I'll take 50 points. No. What are you looking to trade before you get into the trade? How much do you want to make? Is it a scalp? Is it a longer trade? You're like, are you scalping, opening up a big wide stop loss, and then going to take quick profits? Or are you looking for something closer to a 1-to-1 or maybe even a 2R trade? So in that particular scenario, if you're going to tell yourself, well, I'm going to have to risk, 35 points on this trade. I'm trading 2 micros. I'll be down around $160, $180 underneath my $200 maximum risk per trade. So I'm okay with that. But I don't want to take 5 points. I can't, get into a trade and take 10 points. I need something closer to a 1-to-1, at least 25 points, 30 points, 35 points, something like that. What's the number, right? What's the number? We're not trying to figure it out once we're already in a trade. What's the number? If it's a 1-to-1, then you're looking for 30, 35 points. If you're okay with taking 20 points, the number is 20 and it's 20, okay? And you're going to stick to that until something technically is damaged in the trade. Now, the last thought that kind of needs to go into your head with that relates to what is my out, we have to think about the possible scenarios. If I get into this trade and it wicks me into the trade and I'm looking for, let's say, 30 points, and it goes up 5 points and comes down, and now I'm down 20, and I'm using something like a 10-day moving average as a trailing stop, and it closes below the 10-day moving average, I'll get out there. So instead of risking 35 points, now I'm risking 20 points on this particular situation. If that's the determining factor that's going to get you out of the trade, you live by that determining factor. So I don't care if you're down 10 points. I don't care if you're down 20 points for 30 minutes. If it has not closed below that technical level that was going to damage your trade, you stay in the trade until you make money or get stopped out. There's no in between. Okay. If you're telling yourself, well, if the trade doesn't work in my favor and I'm looking for 30 points, and let's say it's climbing in my favor 15 points, 20 points, goes up to 22 points, back down to 12 points in the positive. Now it's back up to 15 points. Now it's back up to 20. Now it's down to 10 points. And it's doing that on you. At that point in time, if I see that going on, I'll just cut profits altogether, right? That needs to be in your thought process before you get into the trade. What's the worst possible scenario? How many points am I going to lose? What's an area where I can get out of this trade without risking my entire stop loss? Might be an area of technical support or resistance, depending on if you're long or short, that you can use to tighten up that risk. And what if it's going in your favor, but it's not hitting price target? A lot of times traders will get into trades where they're looking for certain TP and they've got to get the TP or else nothing. And so many times I've seen traders be up 15 points, 20 points, and it comes all the way back down on them and they end up breaking even or going into even worse drawdown and letting the trade just run against them entirely. So how much time are you going to give yourself for this trade to work out, right? You should have those numbers based on your data already. You should have already taken this trade setup that you're looking at, right? When you answer this question, what am I looking for? I'll just use one of my strategies, a 20 play pivot. If I've taken this trade thousands of times, I know that normally I'm able to get 5 points in under a minute, 1 to 2 minutes. I know that when I'm looking for a 1-to-1, it might take anywhere between 3 minutes and 10 minutes. So if I'm in a trade for 25 minutes and I haven't even hit TP1, should I really be in the trade? Maybe that's an area to get out, right? So when you think about it, all these things need to be thought of before you get into the trade. Now, again, it's not that you're going to be sitting there for 30 minutes asking yourself all these questions. A lot of these questions get answered for very quickly. Okay, I'll give you an example and I'll run it through you in a very quick manner the way that I trade. Market's going to open up here, opens up in, let's say, 5 minutes. What am I looking for? I'm looking for an opening drive play. Right off the open, I'm looking for the opening drive play. We teach that inside of Evolution Traders. So I'm looking for the opening drive trade. Next thing is this inside my trade window? Yes, absolutely. How much risk am I willing to take per trade? I'm going to trade one mini contract. I don't want to lose any more than $300, $400 max. So automatically with that, I know that I'm giving up about 15 points automatically. Okay. Do I really want to take the trade? Absolutely. If this confirms it's looking good long, for example, if we get this opening drive to the long side, do I want to be involved in the trade? Absolutely. How much size can I play? I've already determined that based on how much I'm willing to risk, which is 30 points. Or excuse me, which is $300 to, right around that area, $300 to $350, which is around 15 points. How much size can I play? I can play one mini. I can play 5 micros. If I'm playing 5 micros, I'm going to open up the stop loss a little bit more. If I'm playing, maybe closer something to like 25 points. If I'm playing one mini, I'm going to use, a stop loss of around 15 points. Okay, great. So with that, all of that information that was already answered inside of my head, how do I want to enter that trade? Well, I'm going to set up a bracket. I'm going to set up a bracket for a 5-point take profit and a 15-point stop loss. If the opening drive play confirms, I'm going to be in that trade 100%. All those questions are answered within 30 seconds, right? 30, 40 seconds. So before the trade even happens, you already know what's going on. You've already got a situation played out in your head. What's my out? Well, if I get wicked into this trade and it goes in my favor 1 or 2 points and immediately just comes down, like aggressively comes down off of a long, and I lose 10 points, I'm out. I'm out. If I get into the trade and it goes in my favor, let's say 2 or 3 points, and I'm looking for 5 points on a scalp, it goes in my favor 2 or 3 points, it comes back down to break even, goes down 2 points, and it comes back up, and it's chopping around, I'll let it work. I'll let it work until it does or it stops me out full, right? So there's 2 different scenarios. One, I will cut the trade if it wicks me in and immediately pulls back. Like you see it wick you in and then a big wick down and it's a lot of momentum. I'll just cut it at 10 points. But if it gets me in and it kind of stays there and it hovers and it's going up a point, down 2 points, up a point, break even, I'll let it work. I'll stay patient. I'll let it work. I'll let it work. Because a lot of times when it's just doing that, it's just waiting for more buyers in a long situation or more sellers in a short situation. It's just waiting. And then boom, it's going to explode and hit your TP. But a lot of times where you get into the trade and it goes up and then boom, right back down, you just got to cut it, right? Like, don't take the 15-20 point stop on it. Just cut it at 8, 9, 10 points, because you can feel it. It's an intuition thing. It's an experience thing. It's a feeling thing. You will get that feeling as a trader the longer you're in this business. Again, you're not going to pick all this stuff up in 30 days. You're not going to pick all this stuff up in 6 months. If you know that your best traders in the world have been doing this for years and years and years and years and years, and they're very consistent, right? Over 10 years, over 15 years, 20, 30, 40 years. What makes you think that you're going to pick this up in 10 days and be 6-figure trader, 7-figure trader, right? What makes you think that? You're no special, that you're no different than anyone else. It takes time. But with time, you have a lot of learning to be done. And with a lot of learning, you have a lot of adjustments that need to be made. And over time, over learning, over those adjustments, over working with other traders in a room each and every single day, that's going to be highly beneficial, can cut the learning curve down a little bit. And then it's all up to you to continue to take those trades and continue to build that level of experience. I don't know how many times I've been into a trade and I get into a trade and it's kind of working for me in my favor, and then it starts that pitter patter. And I might be up 5, 6, 7 points. And I can see, we're coming pretty close into an area of supply. I'll cut the trade. I'll cut the trade. And a lot of times I'll just take the small profit, be okay with what the market gave me. And a lot of times I hear other traders who are in the same trade and let it go all the way back down to break even, and actually a full stop loss of, let's say, 20 points. My question always, the question that always arises is, why not just cut the trade when we've seen it stall? If we've got data and information that tells us, based on your data will be different than mine. But based on your situation, on the way that you trade on this specific setup, if it works, normally in under 2 minutes, and we're in the trade for 5, 6 minutes, we're in profit, but it's not really hitting our TP. What are the odds of probabilities of it actually working? If we know that 70% of the time our trade setup works, it happens in under 2 minutes. We are 2-3 times over that expected time to work frame, right? So just get out of the trade. Don't wait for it to come all the way back down and stop you out. Like, a lot of times traders will wait for these moves to go back and hoping that it comes back in their favor and hoping that it just, starts to work and turn around. Guys, the trade's going to work or it's not. This is a game of probabilities. You have to be okay with taking those losses, because the more losses that you can take like that, the more losses where you have a stop loss and you respect your stop loss without moving it, the more losses you take, the more money you're going to make in the long run. Because a lot of times when you don't allow yourself to lose and you try to control the losses, they normally lead to blowouts. Hope you guys enjoy the video. If you want to trade with me each and every single day and get access to my course and the Discord community, we do live trading there. We're doing something very special. We're adding new traders to our, our show, our broadcast in the morning. We're going to have a pre-market scalper that's going to be on in the morning. Very, very good trader with a lot of experience that's going to be sharing their screen and doing some scalping in the morning off a 1 minute time frame. And then I come in as well after the market open and do my thing as well. A lot of learning stuff in there. Very good community. A lot of really good people. If you're interested in that, definitely become a lifetime or a yearly gold member, or even you can do it month by month and see if it's going to be a fit for you. Again, it's always got to be a fit for you. If it's not, there's other learning services and other groups and stuff. I definitely would recommend find one that fits your personality and your style. If you guys need any Apex evaluations, use code DAnthony. It's going to give you the best available sale that Apex offers at any given time. Also, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch all of you guys on the next video.